Hey there, welcome to the Room for Reinvention podcast. On this episode today, we have Leanne Knight. She's a graphic designer and owner of Authentic Vision Media. On this episode, Leanne shares her journey of becoming an entrepreneur and how she's learned to infuse her values into her business and run it with authenticity to make sure she's doing work that she loves and the work that benefits her clients. Let's listen. Hey, Leanne, thanks for being on the episode today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to chat with you.
Yeah, this will be cool. So, as you know, this series is about talking with people, mostly women, who are sharing their stories of reinvention. Some it's a complete reinvention of their whole entire lives, some it's just professionally. So, we're excited to have you here today to share your reinvention story. And it can be if you whatever you want to share. It can be about work, it can be about you starting your own business, or how you got to the place that you are now. Whatever you want to share.
I feel like there was so many reinvention points in my life, so it's hard to like say which is like the one. Um, but I guess I'll talk about business this time, although I definitely have reinvention stories in my past about leaving my marriage and moving away from my hometown and things like that. So just to give a little teaser
Okay,
about
so
what
that
we could talk about. But
okay.
I'm going to talk about how I started my business, which is to start with. I've worked in the live events industry doing like theater and concerts and corporate parties and things like that. Um, since I was 16, I started working in a theater down in New Bedford. And I worked there for a really long time. And then I started freelancing in Boston. And then I felt really established there and I moved to Boston. And like I just teased, that was kind of a big deal because I was leaving my marriage in my hometown. But anyways,
Oh,
and
okay. Maybe that's
there are
the
like
juicier story.
lots of other details there. But yeah, so freelancing in Boston and events and stuff like that, I'm a kind of person that I feel like I really get good at whatever I do. That I started having um kind of like rules for myself of like, okay, I'll try anything once and then like be open to trying things, be open to meeting people. But then I started having like, okay, these are the only things I do actually, or like I'm never taking a job like this thing again. So like over the years, I've just really refined, and then I felt like I was. This is like a side note, but like I really felt like I was kind of an expert or even like a mentor to people like new in the industry, um, finding their way and stuff like that. And I'd be like, work for these companies, try out these companies, but you're probably not gonna like them, like that sort of thing. Like kind of have all the like intel.
In the
Um,
events industry.
yeah,
And
yeah.
what did you do in the events industry? Was it
I mostly
organizing?
did like setup, like technical setup stuff.
Oh,
So I
okay.
did I mostly did lighting. It could be like a really wide range of things. So like one thing I did was um the lighting company that did the ring ceremony for the Patriots at Bob Kraft's house. Like
Hmm.
I worked for them and I helped set that stuff up. But I also did stuff like just being a stagehand at the TD Garden or at like the Opera House or Gillette Stadium for like
Wow.
concerts and stuff like that. So
That's really
yeah.
cool.
So lots of different things. So it's very like ingrained in that industry, and that was like my path. And then I got to a point where I was either taking union work, which um, worked one way. It was like I would pick stuff for the following week. So I wasn't really booking out. A lot of people in events book out really far. They want to fill their schedule. You have to like take what you can get because you're just freelancing. So I would either be booking out work like a week ahead with a union, or there's one company that I really liked, and I would take things with them. But I
Hmm.
started like I wasn't doing anything else then. And then what happened was March of 2020, and
Dun dun
everything got
dun.
canceled. Everything got canceled, and it was like it wasn't funny, but it was sort of funny to me that like everyone was really booked out, so they were seeing things dropping.
Oh
Like
my
it
God.
was, and I'm sure that that was just very scary. And I saw kind of what was happening, and I applied for unemployment right away. And I didn't have stuff really canceled because I was being way more sparing with my like schedule and like being more choosy about what I was doing. So I just didn't quite have that like gut dropping moment. But yeah, so everything canceled, and
But that's
I
still going to be like kind of overwhelming, right? Like your whole entire industry is just like,
Yeah,
oh
but we kind
shit.
of like didn't know what was going to happen. So I was like
No,
not
that's true.
panicking yet.
Yeah.
And I'm also kind of just not really like that. Like I think a lot of people, obviously and understandably, a lot of people were very distressed by that. Totally understandable. I was like, all right, well, right now I have a break. I applied for unemployment probably a few days before anyone else did, which was good. And then I took a break and I like laid in my hammock and had a great time for a little while. And then I was like, what else could I do to make money? I've always kind of wanted to make money from home and be able to like travel. And so I kind of thought about it and I tried a couple of different things and stuff. And then I looked at like LinkedIn and I was trying to get a job. I was trying to like look for jobs doing like graphic design stuff because that's what I really liked. I went to school for web design, but I didn't ever do that because I was doing events and I was really intimidated by uh, being like a freelance web designer or like starting a business that way. I had, out of college, I had no idea what to do. So I didn't even think about it.
Right.
I was also probably like burned out from college workload and stuff like that. So I didn't do that at all. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll do graphic design. And I was looking at jobs and all the jobs they wanted a bachelor's degree in marketing. And I had an associate's degree in web design. I'm like, I'm not even like close. I'm like maybe halfway there. And I was like, do I go back to school for this? And then I was like, absolutely not. Not for me. I'm like, that's such a long commitment to not know like what's going to happen.
Yeah, it is.
So I just took other shorter term opportunities like Skillshare, Udemy, other things like that, and started learning stuff and getting a feel for things and some like low cost courses and stuff like that, like self-paced stuff. And then in August of 2020, I filed for my LLC and I joined a mentorship program for social media managers and I got my first clients all in that month.
Nice. Wow.
And yeah, and I didn't know like it was kind of just I really just felt like I was following the path in front of me. Like I was taking one step at a time. I didn't have some grand, I'm not the kind of person that has some like huge goal that like this is what I'm going to do in 5 years. I'm just like, I don't know, I'm doing this right now.
Right, right.
And then like a couple of things happened. One, I learned a lot. I had a good community in that mentorship program and I got like a lot of help from that and also I got business from that. Um
So it was a social media mentorship
yeah.
program?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
And
really
that
cool.
yeah, and that woman is Andrea Jones and she's great. I love her still and I would still be in the mentorship program if I was still doing social media management. But one thing I learned in the mentorship was lead with your strengths and like don't feel like you have to do what everyone's doing. So like first I started
Mm.
doing like digital marketing and then I was like, well, everyone needs all of this stuff. And then I was like, oh, I can just do social media management. I don't have to do all this stuff. And then she was like, like lead with your strengths. You don't have to do what everyone's doing. And I was like, you know what? I really don't like doing this actually. And I just,
Which is just as important, right?
yeah,
It's
it
just
was
as
so
important to know what
great.
you don't like. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really liked the graphics part. And that was my strongest, the strongest part of my business as a social media manager was that the graphics were going to be like on brand, on point, like very clear and a lot of like effort put into them. But like the content planning and stuff like that I could do, or like the caption writing I did not like doing, like all this stuff that it was like kind of drudgery. And I was like, I really
Mm.
just like the graphics part. So can I just offer that? And so I started, so when I not lost, but like when I parted ways with my last client that was doing social media management, I left that mentorship, but I was like, I love you guys, obviously. And I still keep in touch with them. And one of the other mentees is one of my clients needing, because she needed just the graphics part. So people do need just that part.
Yeah.
um, yeah. And another part of this was that looking back, like I said, I was really intimidated coming out of college and I just had no idea what I was going to do with the degree. Like I was like, am I going to go get clients? I have no idea where to start. And and even as a freelancer in events, I really never thought I was going to start a business. I was like, that's so much work. I don't want everything to be on me. I like showing up to work and like showing up and they tell me what to do and I do it.
Yeah, because I think a big part of having your own business that people don't realize is there's so much more that you have to do. And like photography, I don't get to do just photography.
Yes. Yes. So I was like, I'm never going to start a business. Like, that's the whole thing. I don't need to do that. And then, like, looking back, I realized, like I said to you about how I I kind of like got better at being a freelancer over time as far as like what my kind of rules were about like these are the jobs I will take, these I won't, or like I might, it's not always just rules, it's kind of just like some guardrails of like
Mm-hmm. That's
knowing that
important.
there were, you know, there were certain like kind of red flags and things like that. Like if somebody isn't, so sometimes like a company or like slash a person will try to hire you, and if they don't have like a payroll system in place and they're going to like write you a check later, I stopped working for people like that because you don't know when or if you're going to get paid. And there's people
Mm-hmm.
out there that didn't always pay. So I, as a freelancer, I was only working for companies that have like a payroll system and have like infrastructure of like business
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So things like that, that I was like, I'm not going to work for those people that are literally writing you a check because I don't know if I'm going to get paid. I can't take that risk. I'm not going to work for people that pay under, you know, or that won't let me set my own rate or that pay under a certain amount or whatever. Like I'm not getting out of bed for less than whatever amount. Things like that, that I started um kind of just like crafting my own experience there. And like then other people would be like, oh, I have all these jobs, like I'm working here and there, and I'm like, stop working there, they pay nothing, and you're like so smart, you could be working anywhere else. And the thing is, like, this is a whole complicated thing in events, but there's a lot of people that really love theater, and the local non-union theaters notoriously do not pay well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's this real like push and pull of like people that are like, well, I really love theater and I just want to do work that I love. And I totally get that. But I'm also like, you could be doing something way easier that is union backed and has somebody fighting for raises for you and get paid enough money. And like, maybe you wouldn't love it enough. Maybe you wouldn't really love it, but I'm like, but you're living in a house in Somerville with 6 other people. And like, is
Yeah.
that really what you want? Maybe that is what they want. I don't know. That's not what I wanted. So I had standards for myself, like what I was going to do and what I wasn't going to do. And so then as a business owner, I was like, oh, I've already done a lot of this work of, um, for example, like writing an email to somebody, and I, like, a friend of mine would show me an email. They're like, I'm going to ask for a raise. This is like in events. And they'd be like, hey, like, I was wondering if,
Yeah.
would you mind? And I was like, no, 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 no. You tell them like, hey, I've been working for you for 12 years. I have all of this experience. I do this and this and this for you all the time. I need you to know that my rate is now this. Please let me know, and be kind about it, not being like
Yeah.
pushy,
No,
like
exactly.
bulldozing, but like you might say, like, can we talk about this or whatever? Or you might just say, like, this is my rate now, let me know if you have any questions. Like, but not asking for permission. And that, like, as a business owner, I there's times that we still like ask for permission even though like we're the business owner. And as a
Yeah.
freelancer, I feel like it's kind of the same way, like not completely the same, but you're in charge of, you're the only one like looking out for yourself, kind of. So I kind
Right.
of learned that from freelancing of like, no one's going to pay me more if I don't ask for it, and no
Yeah.
one's going.
Yeah. No, I was going to say the freelancing really helped you set you up for running your own business.
Yeah, that like self, I don't know, like the agency of like, I'm going to ask for what I want. I'm going to say no to this. I'm going to say yes to that. Or like if I want something else, to go ask for it. I wanted to stop doing the, I don't know what to call it in like normal people words, but like the kind of entry level jobs, not really entry level, but that kind of like, there's like a sort of position that's like kind of a lot of people can do. And then I'm like, I don't want to do that job that everyone can do. I want to do the job that's like a level above that, or that's managing those people. And they're
Mm,
not going to put me in that position if I don't ask for it.
right. Yep.
So
Right.
being like, deciding to stop taking those jobs, to decide to say no, which I had to do as a business owner, to like, I had to decide to say no to marketing jobs or social media management jobs, even though I still needed more money, but I needed to protect that space so that I could do what I actually wanted to do, or do what was going to make me more money and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because if you're working for a company, you might have your manager advocating for you, or there's steps that you can do within the
yeah,
company that you know will get you to a better position. You had to figure all of that out on your own.
yeah,
And so you're prepared for when you start your own business, because some people start their own business and they're like, oh my God. That's why coaches, I think, are really great for people who are starting out. Like when I started my business for photography, I worked with a coach that specialized in photography, and that helped set me up.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you learned a lot from freelancing.
Yeah. And to be fair, I learned a lot from freelancing and also from my mentors in that space, you know, telling me, you know, somebody saying, hey, you should come work for this company. And then me realizing, oh my goodness, that company's way better. Why wasn't I here before? Or a company or a friend saying, you know, I have this really good opportunity for you. Or a friend saying like, you know, you should be making more money than that. Or a friend saying you should be in charge of this, not that, you know, not in that other role. So that kind of thing. And that happens in like business ownership too, where I had a lot of that, um, again, like self like advocacy, I guess I want to say, but I
Mm-hmm.
still needed to learn like practical things from coaches like here is what you do like do these things and then also them saying like oh you seem to think that you need to do email marketing because people need that but you don't like to do email marketing you don't have to do that like
Yes.
oh I didn't realize I had that like mental block that I just thought this was a certain way and it's actually not that way so yeah
Right. So you learn you can create the services that's one of my coaches was saying, like, stay in your lane, like
yeah
find out what you like and stick with that. And you don't have to do all that other stuff that we feel that we have to do.
yeah yeah and it's become a lot more apparent now because now am I'm more in touch with like how my body feels when someone asks for something. Like if they're
Mm.
like, "Can you do this?" and I'm like, "Ooh, maybe," or like there's like a gray area. There's like, "Ooh, maybe I could do that." I'm not sure. And then there's like another side that's like, I guess I could do that. And you're like, wait, I don't want to do
Yeah.
that. And then there's sometimes like gray area of like, I don't know how to do that, but I think it could be fun to figure out. So now I'm much more clear on like the things that I have processes for and the stuff that I like and the stuff I've done before. It's like, yes, this what you need fits into what I can do. And then sometimes someone asks for something outside of that, and you're like, do I want to try this? And that's like in freelancing, like, do I want to work for this other company? What are the like points here that I could go through? Like, what's their, you know, I'm using that as an analogy, but like, what's their payroll system? Like, what's this, that? Like, do I know anyone there? That sort of like questions you kind of like check against. So like if someone's asking me to do a project that I don't know how to do, but I think might be fun, it's like, okay, do I think this would be fun? How might I approach this? And then sometimes you start thinking about it and then you're like, oh, well, I would try this and I would try this and I would research this and that. And then you're like,
Hmm.
okay, so I do have an idea of how to do it, even though I thought I didn't know how to do it and kind of like decide from there if you want to take on something new. So
So do you, so 2020 hits, COVID comes, and your gigs all start closing up. And you're like, okay, I've always wanted to work from home. You know, what can I do? And you had gone to school for web design. So you're like, okay, I'm going to give this a try. And then through joining those different networking groups or mentor, um, the
yeah.
social media mentorship, you were able to kind of like figure out what you're good at, what you want to do, what you like, what you don't like, and sort of learn how to build your business that way. Do you miss the events, or are you glad that this is what you're doing now?
It's a great question. I have worked in events a bit since then, mostly in the summer, like after in like 2021 events came back and I was like, oh good. Okay, good. I need to do some of this. And I like kind of pendulum swung into like too much stuff on my schedule and then was like, actually I don't want to do this at all. And then I like in January of I think 2022, I was like, I'm not doing events anymore. And now I do like a couple a month. But mostly what I miss about it is the community and going to a job and there being like at the TD Garden there could be over 100 people there working with me and like knowing basically everyone like it's
Wow.
kind of crazy. Um and some other jobs where there might just be like a handful of people or like a dozen or something like that. And then like knowing people and having known them for so long showing and it's like different all the time. That's one thing I realized when I started freelancing in Boston after working in like one theater for a long time. Like freelancing, I was like, I'm in a different place all the time. I see different people all the time, but the same people sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
And that relationship and that like common, like coming together for a common goal kind of thing. So I really like that. And that's what I miss the most, but I don't like being on my feet all day. I don't like the long hours. I don't like the late nights and I don't like the physical labor really. Um, So that has made me realize, okay, so how do I bring that into my business now so that I love being a business owner as much as I could? And really, like, that is, which brings me to like one of the best parts about being a business owner is the community. And
Mm.
it wasn't, necessarily like that from day one. Like, I started meeting people, but now it's like I have like I track people I connect with, like a networking tracker or whatever. And then now it's like at least 100 people that I know,
Wow.
that
That's
I've
so
that
cool.
I've met with, like coffee chats or group Zoom things or like discovery calls and like things like that. So it's made me realize that this is also a place for that, like for knowing
Yep.
a bunch of people, connecting with people, and hopefully, and what has been great, not just hopefully, but like actually making some closer connections and like closer friends that I didn't have before, because in events everyone's busy all the time because they're
Mm.
working all the time, they're really
Yeah.
overworking. And that was one of the things too, like I really made sure that I didn't overwork, or at least I had like a um I kind of checked in with myself of like, okay, this week was a lot, I'm going to make sure I take some time off, that kind of thing. Like, it's okay to work hard and work a lot but then give rest after. So anyways, a lot of people in that industry are just really busy all the time, or they're
Yeah, I can
like
imagine.
hard to get to or whatever. And now like I can talk to anyone on Zoom, anyone on Voxer or Instagram. And not that that's like the best way to make a close, intimate connection with somebody, but it is a way to keep in touch with people. And that
Yeah.
has been really great to meet so many people. Like, now I feel like I would know way more people. I have way more friends that know what I'm up to and like are interested in my life and stuff like that. So
And so for now with your work, what do you focus on? What's the main service that you give? And so, okay, so this is what this is your business that you've built and you've figured out what you like, what you don't like. You figured out what your guardrails are, what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do. So what do you offer now? And then if you have this in your mind, like what are you thinking for the future? Like
that's a
next
good
couple of years,
question.
maybe.
That's a good question. I like that question. Okay, but to start with like the concrete answer, so I'm a graphic designer and I work with people that have branding already, because I've realized a strength of mine is like to take the plan and run with it kind of thing. So if someone sends me a Google Doc and their brand kit, like I'll run with it and make a PDF design or workbook or whatever that is in their brand but has all of their content that they already figured out. So I do, social media graphics and marketing graphics and also like PDF design and stuff like that, mostly to help other small business owners, the stuff that they need. Again, whether it's like marketing or if they have like a group program or they need a PDF freebie to offer, or a handout for a
Mm-hmm.
presentation or that kind of thing. So that is what I do, and it's great to know when someone asks me about like, do you do branding or logos? And I'm that's something that like in my mind I'm like, maybe I could do that, but I don't have a process for it at all, and that's like down, like I'm not like focusing on doing that. But I'm saying it's in the bucket of like maybe, but not right now. Not just no, but I don't have a process for it, and so it's easy for me to be like, here's what I do and here's what I don't do. You
Yeah,
need to come to me
exactly.
with branding. If their branding
Oops.
isn't super strong, I will um help with that or like add some things or like kind of polish some things, but that's not like, I don't really
You're not
promote
starting
it.
from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah. So oh, and what I've been doing lately too is doing Instagram grids for people that are like, this is
Oh,
my
cool.
my friend Angela's program is called Quiet Quitting Instagram, and so she creates all the posts for them and I design like the visuals for it, so there's like a cohesive grid. So that has been really fun to do with people's branding. But what's down the road, honestly, I don't know how much longer we have in this conversation, Kim, but like I do have this inkling that like I'm not going to do graphic design like long term, because it's a
Yep.
lot of, well, I don't know, it has to change in some way. It's just a lot of energy. It's a lot of creative energy, like day after day, like a little bit, I don't want to say extractive, like I don't feel like I'm like being exploited or something, but like it's like little bit life sucking. No, that sounds terrible, but like it is
Because
like
it's time.
not just a time. It's because like creative energy. So and this is just something I've
Mm.
been like kind of toying with. So I'm not saying it's like life sucking. That sounds like I hate it, but what I'm saying is like it's like going for a run. Like you might be invigorated, but it also took energy out of you, and like you
Mm.
couldn't do it. There's a limit to how much you could do it, and you need to do other things to nourish yourself and to replenish yourself. So what I've been thinking about as a creative business owner is like, how do I make sure that I'm fueling my creativity and fueling my energy and not just always like, because I feel like I'm just like producing. I like sit at my computer and I'm just like making stuff. So so there's different sides to this. There's one is like, how do I energize myself so that this always feels fun and that I have fresh ideas?
Yeah,
and then
that's
there's
a
this
creative
side,
problem.
yeah,
Because photographers have the same thing. It's like when you're doing, sorry, something just happened with my computer. When you're doing shoots or this portrait, same posing over and over and over and over and over again, they start to hate it. So they're like,
yeah,
how do I fill my creative bucket back
yeah,
up? So you have to
yeah,
do projects. Yeah.
yeah. And at the same time, I think sometimes like um you have kind of a finite uh amount of solutions to problems. I don't know if this is true or not. This is kind of just a hypothesis. Like, so sometimes just the same thing works a lot of times. You know, you're like, yeah, I'm going to have this person stand this way. I'm just totally assuming about photography. Like, I'm going to have this person stand this way because it works. And I'm not going to do it every single time, but I'm going to do it on a regular basis. So even when, you know, someone like me that talks about like brand consistency and like using the same colors and making sure your graphics look kind of cohesive so that people recognize your stuff, even though I say that, I still struggle with like, oh, this looks exactly the same as before. I'm like, well, that's
Yeah.
okay. And I still tell myself that. And then from one client to the next, it's like, well, yeah, this kind of format works and it's going to be unique here because it's their content
Right.
and their
Yeah.
colors. But still, some of those, again, like some of those solutions are just going to be the same across the board. So, and that's, you know, as much as I want to have like new creativity and fresh ideas and feel inspired, I also have to remember that some of these things are just going to be repeated and it just works.
Yeah. I mean, you can only do a couple poses with a headshot.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's like there's not too many variations if
Yeah.
it's from here to here.
Yeah. So it's like this, like, I'm very like torn about it because
Well, so what are you thinking?
about what I would do instead.
Yeah, or that
or
you're
what?
just like playing with different ideas.
Well,
yeah.
what I was
Or
gonna
how do you
say
think?
is like I have some clients that I do stuff for every month. So it's very like I need some new ideas, but I need to also just lean on what works and what they've already done for the brand consistency. And then I find that like sometimes I'll have a new client and a new project that's really exciting and really fun. And so being okay with that fluctuation, like not everything's going to be new and fun, and I wouldn't want it to be all new and fun. And like not everything is going to be boring and repetitive. And I also don't want it to be boring and repetitive all the time either, but I want a little bit of both. So I don't know. That's what I think about. And then also just as far as getting new ideas, like I'm trying to have a creative practice outside of graphic design. So I started like drawing and I didn't know what to draw. And so I started drawing mandalas. So I draw them like in marker sometimes and I've been drawing them on the iPad.
What is that? What is a mandala?
It's like, how do you explain this? It's like a circle. It's like symmetrical. It's like, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. So it's like, so nobody listen to this. No, I'm just kidding. It's like a circle, but like symmetrical things like around it, and then it just like keeps going like bigger and bigger.
I think I know what it is. Yeah.
So I'm sure there's like a more technical or like historical description of it, but so I started drawing mandalas like on paper or also on like the iPad and Procreate, which has been really fun because of those like capabilities. And doing that just like being in the flow of like, maybe I'll try it this way this time and seeing how it evolves over like the months, like how they're different. And that kind of made me want to paint. I haven't painted since college probably, but I was like, oh, maybe I could do this like with actual paint because I'm doing it with like Procreate brushes, you know, no cleanup required.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah.
So you're kind of seeing where it leads you.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like, yeah, no goal and not, I do like to share them sometimes, but no like purpose to it. And then also just remembering as far as like being creative or coming up with new ideas, like remembering that everything I do when I'm not designing still contributes to my designing, like listening to podcasts or going for a walk or going on vacation or reading a book or laying on the couch or playing video games, like eating food, going to a new restaurant, like whatever it is that seems like totally unrelated or mundane, is all input, whether it's rest or it's maybe it is new input. Maybe I see like beautiful food and that gives me like an inspiration for a design. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's not always a direct line. It's just like being aware in life and
Mm-hmm.
observing things and being like alive, and that all helps me to be a better designer. So knowing that I'm like not wasting time by doing something that's not designing, and knowing that like every bit of my life is important and valid, whether it seems productive or not, because I don't think
Yes.
productivity is like the highest the highest good or anything like that. So it doesn't need to be
No, that's
productive.
really cool because sometimes I feel like a lot of us are like this, but lately I'm so in my head because sorry, some
It's okay.
sorry about that. I didn't put my phone on airplane mode. I'll have to cut that part out. No, but sometimes, as you know, we get so busy and we're in our heads the whole entire time. And I'm not even like aware of what's going on around me. And in order for you to, or anyone to get replenished, or whether you're a creative or not, it's like you have to be present and be able to go outside, get inspired, whatever it is. But you're right. The minute that I start to pay attention to what I'm doing and I'm in the moment, I could be out on my run listening to some music or out in nature, and then all of a sudden ideas come, or I just feel better.
Yeah.
You're right, that's productive. And I love that you said that, because oftentimes it's like, what did we finish or tick off of our
Right.
list to feel that we did accomplished things, and that's just
Yeah.
not that. You run yourself ragged.
Yeah. And I just think that that really doesn't sit well with me, to think that we need to be productive all the time. So I use that word saying like it's still productive, but I'm also like, but we also don't have to be productive. And that's kind of what I'm saying, is like it's all productive because it doesn't matter if we're productive or not. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I also say like there's no right and wrong, so therefore everything is right. So like
Well,
that kind of thing. Everything's productive because there is no difference between being productive or not. Like it's not, that's not the point that I'm trying to like focus on. So um
I think
another
that's cool.
things. Another thought that came to mind about reinventing myself was that I really, it's just really interesting to me that now today I'm like Leanne Knight, graphic designer, where like, you know, 5 or 10 years ago, I would have been like, I'm never starting a business. Like, or like, I can't do graphic design. I have no idea what to do. Or like, I don't know how to do that stuff. So how could I even do that? And then I had to embrace these are the things I'm good at and that I know how to do. And I don't
Mm.
have to know how to do everything in order
Yeah,
to
and you
be
can
that.
learn. Right.
Or like, and I can learn, or I can decide to not do that. So like, I
Yeah.
don't, again, I've started kind of drawing on the iPad, but I also like, if I'm mostly a graphic designer for typography things, for things with text.
Hmm.
And I don't put any pressure on myself to know how to like digitally create like artwork, or if that makes sense. Like I don't consider myself like a digital artist or an illustrator.
Hmm.
And if someone needs something like that, like we'll find a way, but I'm not like, oh yeah, let me draw this thing for you. Like I put together your elements into something good, and bring together new elements and new ways of seeing things and new ways of presenting things. But I'm not like, oh, I need to like someone want people keep asking me for visuals to represent their methodology, if that
Mm.
makes sense. And
Hmm.
they're like, oh, I have these things and how should I like present it? And that is something that I'm like, I'm not sure how I'm gonna, I don't know how to do that yet. So I'm toying with if it's like I don't want to do that, or if it's like maybe I'll figure that out. But that sort of thing is going to require like original artwork, or like some sort of drawing like from scratch. Maybe it could, maybe.
Hmm.
So like even if they're just like, oh, I want to show like a staircase and I want it to show these things to fit like their exact thing, I'm not going to just like Google like a graphic of stairs. Like
Yeah,
I'm going to
right,
have to
right,
like
right.
make something. So, you know, and that it could be really simple or it could be really intricate. So um that's where it's kind of like pushing the edge of like I want to help people with their marketing and their branding, like not creating their branding, but bringing their branding into everything. And then they want this other thing that I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. Um,
But if you do think about it and you like it, you can learn how to do it.
yeah,
See, what's good about you is that you're open to new experiences. It sounds like you're not so, like some people get so stuck on, oh, I can't do that because I don't have X, Y, and Z, or
yeah,
they're too afraid to even try. like they're afraid to take the risk. They're afraid to fail. They don't fail. They don't know what it's going to be like. And you kind of are just like, you're pretty, seem to be easygoing and like, okay, well, let's just see what happens.
Yeah. I'm glad it comes off that way. I definitely put a lot of like pressure on myself to like know what I'm doing. So, and also I guess a bit of a people pleaser in that I don't, if someone asks me to do something, I'm like trying to figure out how to say yes instead of like some
But that's
other.
good because you care about what you're doing. You care about the quality and
Yeah.
you care about your clients. So you may be laid back in some senses, but you're also care about the quality of
Yeah.
work you're doing.
Yeah. So I don't want to agree to something and then like not deliver. That would be very
Yeah.
stressful to me. But also, yeah, and I think part of this like laid backness is that I'm aware of what this feeling means when there's like someone asks me to do something and then there's like tension. It's like, do I not want to do that, or is it I just don't know what to do? And I'm so aware of that in
Mm,
myself. I'm totally like a procrastinator for like because I don't know what to do yet. And so I don't and sometimes I know if I just sat down and thought about it, I'd probably figure it out. But
right.
sometimes you're just not ready yet. And I'm aware of that feeling of like I don't know what to do about this yet, so I'm not going to do it yet. And that's a feeling that comes up when someone asks me to do like visuals for their methodology. I'm like, I don't know what to do, but it doesn't feel like a no. It's just like I wouldn't want to say
Mm,
yes and not deliver. So I think that's what it takes for like someone that's a little more like closed minded and like rigid in what they do. They might not be as aware of like why they're saying
mm,
no. They might just be like, well,
yeah.
no, I do this and I don't do that. But if they know why they say no and yes, then they might be like as bending the rules. And it's like I said about freelancing, like what company I'm going to work for, what place or whatever, or what rate. There's a many factors in it, and it's not just like this is the rate, yes or no. It's like
Right.
this is the rate, but this is the work, and this is the place, and these are the people, and like all of these other surrounding things that then I can make a judgment based on all of those things. So
It's kind of cool though, because you have the ability to, well, hopefully work as much as you want, right? But also choose who you want to work with. That's one of the powers and the benefits of having your own
yeah,
business.
yeah, and that's what I think is great about being like a business owner as opposed to like a freelance graphic designer, where I imagine that a freelance graphic designer is like taking what they can get, and I don't know, like it's kind of just a different, like they're like doing what they're told. As a, like in events, I showed up and did what I was told, and I curated my freelance career to some degree, but I still showed up and did what I was told. And whereas a business owner, I'm like, here's what I can do for you,
Hmm.
and we have a conversation about like what is it you're looking for, what are you hoping to get out of this, and I'm getting a feel for what kind of person somebody is, and if we're going to align in like values, as far as like I don't do any like rush projects. I need time to do things. Like if you want it tomorrow, it's not going to work. Like get that kind of feel for people. um and then I get to, we both get to choose if this is a fit. And I also say like, this is what I can do for you. I'm not like, what do you need? Yeah, I'll do that. you know
Right, right. Yeah.
so yeah, so it's been really interesting, and it's been such a change. I know we've just been talking about a lot of like the logistics of business and freelancing and stuff like that, but really it's such a change from before that I did not. Now I have this
Yeah.
full like knowledge of being a business owner that I had no idea that I was even going to get into before. So you all know
And
me
it's
now,
amazing.
but you didn't
But isn't
know.
it amazing? And it's not, it's amazing how much we can change our lives in such a short time. Like
Yeah.
before you, right? It's like 2020, you decided to kind of shift, even though, you did have a background, you knew how to do web design, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What, like if we focus and we set our mind on, we can kind of create.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, you're going to have to come back for the part two about the other.
The prequel to tell you about, yeah, leaving everything behind for sure.
Yes. Okay. So, well, okay. We can find you on your website is
authenticvisionmedia.com. And
okay.
I'm also hanging out on Instagram, authentic.vision.media. And I also like to connect with people on LinkedIn. Yeah, this was great.
Okay. And I'll have all of your information, in the notes and
Yeah,
everything so people can find you.
perfect.
Well, thank you, Leanne, for sharing your story with us.
Yeah,
This
thank
has
you
been
so much for
great.
having me, Kim. This was great.
Thank you.